And there's the green light. Hello, everybody. My name's Gary, Jolly Roger Ukulele. I am going to go to the front page of Jolly Roger over here so that I know what we're supposed to be talking about tonight. Tonight, we're wrapping up the songwriting section, okay? So we'll have to make sure your Circle of Fifths is in your book at least. Don't have to know everything about it, but you have a pretty good sense of what it's about. And then the music theory section, which is your chord charts, designed to make you know how songs go together, and then getting to know the fretboard and scales is a little bit of it's not as important as people tell you it is. But for some people it's very important, and they want to know where every single note is on their fretboard and what it means and how to use it. And so we've got resources there for you on that. So we're wrapping up that section. Next week we'll dive back into new songs, and so I don't remember exactly what the first one is. Let me just take a peek because it's kind of interesting to find out what's coming next week. So book one, after the music theory songwriting section, let's think about how smart you're getting. Advancing players, blah 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 blah, and then next week, Amazing Grace, where we talk about minimizing your motion. After that, Happy Birthday, one of those songs that you got to know even if you never play it. And then La Kuchka Racha, we're going to talk about staccato playing and all through the night, legato playing. Home on the Range is sort of a wrap-up of that section to make sure you're feeling really good about all of the choices you make. So we got a lot of good music coming in the next few weeks, and so I hope that you continue to hang around with me and we'll get stuff done. I'm noticing that I have a huge delay on the YouTube thing, so who knows who's here and who's not, and I might be talking to myself. That's fine too. And then also tonight we will be running through out of book 2 some of the more of on the Celtic music. So it's every last one of those songs is beautiful on ukulele. So all right, let's take a look. Let's just open up each resource so that you know what you're doing. So if I go to Circle of Fifths, right? Circle of Fifths. Go pull your Circle of Fifths up. Should be in book 1, ukulele book 1. Look at there. Oh wait, I think it's under ukulele. No, it's not in my book. I have it memorized oddly, and so sometimes I don't. Sometimes I think I can speak extemporaneously about it, and it's not a smart idea. So let's go grab ukulele Circle of Fifths. And this is the first thing I ever made on ukulele, by the way, is I was like, I need to know what these notes look like in this so that I can write songs. So it's ukulele Circle of Fifths. First one on the top is a C chord. Okay, if I go one piece of pie to the left, I get F. And then if I go one piece of the pie to the right of your original chord, C, I get G. And I come back to the original chord. Okay? Huge numbers of songs written with just that thought. I'm gonna play the C chord, then to F, wrap it up with a G chord. Okay, so songs from, let's call it 1700 on ish, the Baroque period on, really solidly built around this idea. Prior to that, we were working with medieval and Renaissance music, and they had other ideas, right? But we like this, right? C, F, G, back to C, and that's going to be your basic building block of all music. Now, to fancy it up, of course, at the bottom of each of those pieces of pie, you have your minor chords. So I have A minor. One to the left is D minor. One to the right is E minor. And back to A minor. Okay, so you end up with this kind of a cool feeling of, I gave you the wrong D. By the way, I gave you the wrong D minor earlier. Here's the A minor. Here's the D minor we want. And then over to E minor. And back to A minor. So if you want to write a moody song, right, that's the chord you want to use. Okay, So those three chords work really nicely together. Okay, so C, F, and G work together. A minor, D minor, and E minor work really nicely together. And then, what do you know? They all work pretty nicely together as well. So if I go from C chord to A minor to F, over to G, go to A minor, go to D minor, go to E minor, maybe to F, and then to C. So you could take those 6 chords and mix them up in lots of different ways. Sometimes it works, sometimes your thought that's in your head is like, I'm playing this song for this note chord for a long time, then I'll switch it to, then I'll go to F. And maybe that fits what you're thinking about, maybe it doesn't. But the idea here is those 6 chords will work together. So they're circled in that circle of fifths, and they're going to sound great together. And then your challenge, of course, as a songwriter is, how do I pull chords further and further away from that to sound cool? And it's harder and harder to do. So if I take C, F, and G, you know, those go together. But let's say I wanted to toss in an F sharp. Whoa, what? Right? What am I playing? F sharp, and then over to G? Probably isn't going to work as well. You know, you get into Weird Al Yankovic type songs and more experimental music when you're taking chords from one side of the circle of fifths and going all the way over the other side and seeing what you can do to get to them. One of the early activities that you give new songwriters is make it all the way around the circle of fifths in something that sounds nice. And it's harder than you'd think. The C sounds okay. The F sounds okay. The B flat starts to sound a little awkward. And then the E flat. And see, they start to feel like, man, I don't know if these are going together so great. A flat to C sharp to F sharp worked pretty well. By the way, I was so early on in ukulele, I didn't think ukulele was going to be a thing for me, and so I didn't worry about the sharps and the flats and making them all match up and all this stuff. I was just all flats all the way around to A flat, and then I brought the sharps all around that way and had to make choices. The baritone chord chart's a little bit more complete, but just know if it's a C sharp, it might be a D flat there, which is probably more typical to write that there. But all my chords at that time were in C sharp, and I just haven't bothered to update this, and it still works. So that gives you how a circle of fifths works. Is you want to write a song, you pick that little spot, and you stick with those chords at least until you know what you're doing. So let's say that I don't want to start in the key of C, I want to start in the key of D. I like to sing in the key of D. Go one pi piece to the left, and I get a G. And it sounds really good with D. If I go to 2 pi pieces over into the A, that's going to sound real good, just the same, and back to D, D, and G, and A, back to D, mixing a B minor, add in the E minor, go get that F sharp minor, back to B minor, go on to D. There's an A7 mixed in there, back to D. So that's how the circle of fifths works. It's not meant it's not meant to be a chord chart. It's meant to help you know which chords are going to sound nice together right away. So it's really fast and easy to get you if you're deciding, I'm going to write a song, ex-girlfriend, ex-boyfriend, current girlfriend, current boy, future girlfriend, future boyfriend. I'll write a song about this moment, and I don't remember exactly what chords go with what, but that's that. And otherwise, you're left sort of floundering around trying to, does this chord sound good? No, that doesn't really sound good. But this one does, that one, oh, that's what I want to do. And it just speeds the process along. And so that gives you how chords fit together when you're songwriting. And so that's the purpose of circle of fifths. Now, if you look at the baritone one, what I did, same thing, everything's the same, but I simplified it a little bit and I put your 7th chords down at the bottom. Okay, so one of the things to know is that if I'm in C and I go back over to F and I come to G, okay, that's called the 5th. So the circle of fifths, because everything to the right of wherever you're at is going to be the 5th of that thing. So if I'm on C, D, E, F, G, that's your 5, right? And here it is, G chord, of course. So C and G, so that's your 5. Anytime you have a 5, you can substitute a 5/7. Okay, so that creates tension, and when you first learn it, you're like, I don't like that. But when you study it a little bit longer, you're like, oh, I know why we do this. Lots of tension back to the main chord. So anytime you have the 5 of your whatever you're working on, the 5th, you can switch it out to a 5/7, in this case G7, and it will push you magically back to your main piece of pie. I think the key with understanding circle of fifths is you're going to pick a piece of pie and you're going to build a song around that piece of pie. So if my piece of pie is A flat in this case, well, I make that chord. I'm like, oh, that's a cool chord. And then, oh, it's way down here. Is that right? That doesn't feel right. Oh, I'm on the wrong instrument. I'm on a ukulele. Let's grab a baritone real quick just so we can see if it works. Okay. So I was like, that's not right. On baritone, turn the baritone braid on. A flat. Goes to E. Let's go to the left. It's upside down, right? Let's go to the D flat. Then the E flat is right here. But if I want to substitute an E7, and then back to A flat, so you can see how, I'm sorry, I'm substituting an E7 in there. I should be substituting an E flat 7. There it is. That's what you're looking for, right? And my whole brain was like, that doesn't feel right. And then all of a sudden I got it right. There's your song progression, and then your brain doesn't have to fight these weird chords you're adding in just to see what happens. That's part of the fun of songwriting, is finding weird chords that are surprising, that don't necessarily go with what you're working on. But don't start there. Start with the easy stuff. Get your system down. Write a song and each key going around the circle of fifths, and you'll be happy that you did, because in the long run, it's still the foundation of basically every single song except wildly experimental songs. And then now you also have another piece of tool that I got finally finished, and I was hoping the email would go out last night, but it got stuck in the machine somehow, so you didn't get it. But you are the first ones to get the brand new, all new and improved, no guitar chords added in, baritone ukulele chord chart. And so if you look at the chord charts there in lesson 16, we went over these last week, but again, they're going to help you figuring out how to do it. I'm going to use baritone, but the same thing is true on ukulele. If I use a C chord on baritone, okay, on ukulele it looks like that. That's column 1. Then I go over to column 6, okay. And there's A minor. Come back to column 4, for example. So far, so everything's sounding good. Let's go to that 5/7 that we were just talking about. Okay. Now I've got this song pattern: C 2 3 4, A minor 2 3 4, F 2 3 4, G7 2 3, back to C. And what you get there is by using just this horizontal line, just pick one and then stick to the columns of 1, 4, 5, 5, 7, and 6. You're going to have no chords that sound weird. I mean, you can go all the way down to the bottom of the chart. If you got C flat, on 4, F flat, G flat 7, back to C flat. Whoop. Whoops, that did sound weird, right? Let's try it again. C flat, F flat, G flat, C flat. So you see how it drops in there really nicely if you get the chord, if you hold them correctly. And so then you can start looking at, all right, if I'm going to write a song in C flat, which is crazy. Hanging out in this G flat area. What if I did a G flat 7? Back to C flat. So all I'm using is columns 1, 4, 5, 5, 7, and 6. And I'm like, oh, well, that sounds pretty good. And I didn't even use 6 in that case. This was right there. Mess around with those and find out. And again, you're thinking not so much about looking up chords to find out how to play a specific name of a chord, but more about how do chords work together to create a foundation from which you then build a more fancy song. And that's these chord charts are super helpful that way. Also, now minor keys work the same for the most part, but in minor keys you'll definitely use 5, 7 a lot more than 5. So if I'm looking at the baritone ukulele chord in minor, hey Robin, and I'm working on A minor baritone, oh that's so sad, and then I go to D minor, that's really sad too, but you can feel the progression there. Instead of E, I'm going to go to E7. Alright, we get that weird. Now when you go back to A minor, you're going to be like, oh yeah, that works. Okay, so in minor chords, you'll tend to use the 5, 7 more than the 5. But of course, depending on the individual song, may or may not make sense. But generally speaking, it helps a lot in minor keys to use the 5, 7 because it's giving you a little bit of a push, a little harmonic push back to the main chord, and it usually helps and makes you sound like you know what you're doing a little bit. I didn't even know about that when I started songwriting. I wrote a ton of songs without the 5, 7. And now when I go back and look at those, I'm like, should have been a 5, 7 here for sure. So anyway, that's the brand new ukulele, baritone ukulele chord chart. All yours. Robin just walked in and she's like, I don't know what he's talking about. Maybe she does. And there's that. Then last week we talked very briefly about your scales. Again, I'm not a huge fanatic about scales. We'll do them or don't do them. It doesn't really matter to me. But the important thing is for those of you who really want to know what notes you're actually playing, the names of the notes you're playing, both playing the C scale for ukulele, it has the names of the notes there at the bottom of the page on that resource, and so you, if you want, you can memorize the notes. It will help you down the road read standard notation. I don't bother myself with that because I have tablature and it's way faster. But some of you, especially if you had previous musical training, you're like, I must know the names of these notes as I'm playing. And so those are spelled out for you on both the resource for playing scales. And remember, baritone has a lot more chord scales they can play right out of the box than ukulele does. That's the wrong way to put it. The easy scale to play on ukulele is C to C. On baritone, C to C is not particularly easy, but D to D is. And then they have, what's the other scale that they have that's really kind of fun to play? Baritone scales. G to G, right? So their G to G is the same as your C to C on ukulele, but they also have D to D, which starts real low and doesn't even get to the first string. Their key of C is kind of a bummer because you have to actually change positions. So they have all that, and then I did not put their fretboard on there. That's why you need the last resource in the songwriting section, which is, go away, the where are all the notes worksheets. Okay, and so on those two fretboards I show you where the notes are. And again, if you are musically knowledgeable, you'll want to know if you're on a baritone and you're like, all right, this is an E, this must make that E, F. This is either F sharp or G flat, so I just left it off because you will know that. And here's a sit G, here's the real G, and then G sharp or A flat, A, and so on. Memorizing those note positions is only important if you have prior musical experience, and it's really important for you to do standard notation and to be able to name the notes. I've had any number of students who, hey, that's important to them, and a lot of them are not using tablature. They're just playing straight from sheet music. I don't really necessarily think that's every song that's worth playing is already got tabs probably, and the ones that aren't tabbed are probably weird things you think is really good. Robin says, I've been thinking about getting a baritone. I tuned a cheaper soprano to D, G, B, E quite a while ago, mainly to help me learn where the chords are. Weird maybe, but it's been working. So that's another possibility, right? I don't always recommend you do that, because either if you tune it down, your strings get super floppy, and if you tune it up, you can actually break the ukulele because you're up 5 half steps, so it's pretty tight. So the baritones are relatively affordable. You know, a decent one's, I don't know, $350 or something, and in the world of music, that's pretty cheap. But the nice part about baritone is everything's in order. The low string is on the top and the high string's on the bottom, just like you would think that it's meant to be. But ukulele has the two of those. For now, it's okay. Yeah, it's perfectly fine to learn that way. But there comes a point when you're like, you know what, I kind of like playing baritone. Maybe I should get one. But anyway, you have your notes here for both fretboards. And like I said, the main purpose of this conversation is to be like, if you want to learn them, learn them. If you don't want to learn them, you don't need to learn them. They can be helpful. They can also just cause additional confusion if you're a newer musician. Stick with your tabs. I promise the day that you want to know the names of those notes, you'll be able to figure it out pretty quickly. But some people want to see them right off the bat, and that's that. All right. We're going to play through Molly Malone, Parting Glass, and Siúil A Rún. We're going to look at that. Of all of those that you probably know, if you know Molly Malone, that's probably the most famous of them. Parting Glass is probably the second most famous. And Siúil A Rún, I don't think anybody in America has ever heard of. And it's really beautiful, so we'll do that. It's in the plan for the future. Yeah, just stop. What do they always say? Stop spending your money on what do you call it? Amazon. Don't go to Amazon for a few weeks, and then you can buy your ukulele. They used to say don't buy your latte, but I'm in the latte business, so keep buying your lattes, so that we won't go out of business. All right, so let's play Molly Malone on ukulele, and let's make sure we're all working from the same. We know we are. So Molly Malone on ukulele. We're in Book 2. And remember, poor Molly Malone, she sells fish at the fish market, and she's not going to make it to the end of the song, and her ghost is going to be selling fish, and it's kind of sad. You guys. All right, so I know Robin is here. She's going to be rocking out with me. If you're watching the recording, again, the job is not to listen to me play or to talk. Your job is to play along in whatever way makes sense. If you have a baritone, you're going to be doing the chords. If you're new to ukulele, you're going to be playing the melody, and if you've been around a while, you want to play the tough uke. I try to play one time at least with just my thumb, and then I try to switch to claw. Sometimes I forget, but I like to play with claw and with thumb. I want you to be able to do it both ways. One way will always sound better than the other. Normally your thumb sounds way better than just claw picking, and that's why you want to work on claw picking more, so that they sound equally good. Okay, 2 pages. Let's just do it 2 times through. Okay, 1, 2. Second time through, go. Whoops. Go ahead and finish up. Remember, even if you're playing claw style and you see that little wiggly line, that says, oh, I'm not going to give you choices anymore. I don't want you to play, right? I want you to, right? I want you to play that like a glissando, like all of those notes sort of fast and in a clearly audible way between each other. They sound nice. Let's go grab the baritone version of it. Now, if you're on ukulele, your chords are a little tough. You got D, B minor, E minor, and A7 are your 4 chords. And those are not book 1 chords. That they're in book 1, but they may not be in your wheelhouse quite yet if you're newer. And so you got to go look those up and write them down next to that. So when we play the baritone, you're not just stuck listening, right? You want to be able to know, oh, I know my D chord on ukulele. Blah, 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 blah. Oh, B minor. Oh, that's kind of hard. I like that chord, right? And E minor, you know, from the previous version of this. And then A7 is that right there, right? And it's only 4 chords, and so wouldn't it be nice just to have those memorized and knock it out, or at least handwritten in, so you can up at the top maybe. Oh, here's my 4 chords on ukulele, so you'll remember. Okay, let's do this nice and just as pretty as we can. 1, 2. And that 10, 10, 10, 7, that's going to come up all the time. 7, 7, 7, 10, sorry, 7, 7, 7, 10, because it's always the same chord as whatever your main chord is down here. So, in other words, D down here, D up here. Right? So I do that a lot. I'm playing along in this chord, and then I'm going to finish it up with that. It always sounds nice. Beautiful. Molly Malone. Be sad to see her go. She ends up dead at the end of the song and selling ghost fish. Let's go look at Parting Glass. We have 2 weeks left on Parting Glass, so let's play through both ways. Not everything, right? This is too long to play everything. Let's play it 1 time through on baritone and 2 times through on ukulele. Okay? Partly my baritone one, I put in a bunch of slurs, so it'll probably be a mess in playing it through. So let's give it a try. From the top, 3 beats count in. Of all the money that I ever had, I spent it in good company. That's what you're after. Okay, ukulele players, you're on chords again. B minor, bar on 2, right? You know your G chord, you know your D chord, know your A chord. I think that's the main chords. Let's see what happens. 1, 2, 3. Whoops. There's a 5. I have a 4 written down. Oh, sorry, hold on a second, guys. I don't know why I wrote that down. Alright, I'm not going to do what I wrote down here. Alright. From the top. 1, 2, 3. Whoops. Where am I at? Here it is. Turn the page. Go. Let's go ahead and do the repeat. Up to the top. Oops. Second ending. Messed up the ending. Alright, I was busy thinking about all sorts of non-parting glass things. Let's play it on ukulele. It'll sound way better. Alright, ukulele. If you're on baritone, you know your C, G, D, and E minor. All of those are very, very baritone chords, so you should be able to play right along with us. From the top, 1, 2, 3. Sorry. Back to the top. Second ending. I'm really glad I have next week to play that one more time. So keep working on that. I did find a mistake. Measure. Yeah, you guys don't need to worry about it. It's fingering error. It's not a mistake. It's just better fingering I found. We'll worry about that later. All right, guys. And then finally, tonight, let's talk very briefly about Siúil A Rún. First of all, before you start this piece, go listen to the MP3. Don't even start it till you listen to the MP3 because you don't know the song. And I don't even know really a lot about it except that it's great. And so I want you to spend a little bit of time on the ukulele going through it, or your baritone, whichever. They're both the same. And then pay attention to your repeats. They're quite extensive. And I wrote, no, the MP3 doesn't follow this pattern. I will fix that eventually too. Doing crazy repeats on here is super complicated. So the idea here is you're going to play down to from 1 to 8, 7, 1 to 0 through 7, yeah, and then 1 through 6, and then you're going to jump, do the second ending, and play that through. And then the repeats are a mess, and so use the MP3 as to get you into the song, but then know that next week then I will clean up the repeats and make it a little clearer what we're supposed to do. But if you are again, not a ton of chords on here. I put in some minor 6 down at the first repeat, and at the end they sound kind of cool, but they're not way different than you're used to. What we really are looking at is a piece that's kind of bounces around all over the neck, and which, as you know, are always a little harder. So if you are at Siúil A Rún, play it so slow. 3, 5, bar on 7. Try to get every single note clean. And this is a weird G chord. It's magical. Here's our favorite F chord at measure 3. Now you want to have your pinky slide it up to 10 and then hit the 7 and then go get this G chord. Let it ring for a second, and then this is the kind of fun one. So it's just bum, bum, bum. That's just there for pretty, right? And then you'll repeat that section. And then let's go on for measure 8 so we can see what's going on there. By the way, that speed I just played at is probably the final speed. I have it set at quarter note equals 100. It sounds way better at quarter note equals 60, right? So really crazy slow. Give yourself permission to play that slow. So the second time we come around, we play measure 8. It's the same as 7. Okay, let it ring for a second. And now we've got a new idea here at measure 9. Okay, so A minor 6th. G with the D on the top, and then a little bit of melody. And again, let those notes ring. This is kind of hard. Bar on 5, pinky way up on 10. Okay, quite a stretch. You can't do this on guitar. You can totally do it on ukulele. Okay, and do that fast. And don't slide your pinky all the way down to the 7. You just won't do it. You're going to have to trade out either for your ring. Yeah, trade out for your ring. And you've already got the bar on 5, so you don't have to move anything. And then you got this funky G. A minor. Again, this funky G. It's got a C on the top. F chord. Okay, and then this is the repeat that's going to send you all the way back to the beginning to do the top twice again. Whoops. Okay, that's just a kind of a landing area there, and then hit this high note. So you're going to hold that A minor. This is just a funky A minor. And then you repeat that top section twice, come back down to the bottom here the third time. And then when you get to 14 the second time through, which is really going to be the fourth time, you will jump down to 18. And it's again that weird G chord with the C on top. Let it ring. And then A minor, 3. Let it ring completely out. And then this weird A minor. Okay, so it's kind of this magical feeling song, and I don't even know what the words are about. Some of them are not in English, but it has a very mystical feeling to it, and I think it's a love song mostly, and it could be a lullaby even, really. Just we're going to play it super slow, and I'll fix the repeats so the MP3 plays right, but the basic idea is play the top twice, play the middle, play the top twice, play the middle, then skip to the bottom, play that. And so we'll be working on that for the next couple weeks, 3 weeks, and you'll be really good at it. Baritone's exactly the same, just a different key. Hope you guys are having a great night. Robin, good to see you. Anybody else that's peeking at this video at whatever day or week or time it is, thanks for listening in. Go play some Celtic music out of book 2, and Parting Glass and Siúil A Rún this week. That's pretty good music, right? And then just make sure any questions you have out of book 1 on the songwriting section. There's a lot of stuff we covered in a really short amount of time, and I usually have students work on physically work on some sort of song in class, and we can't do that online, obviously, to have them sort of knuckle their way through their first song. And so if you have questions on that, obviously send me an email. We can chat about it that way. Hope you're having a great night. I'll see you soon. Peace.